Hey guys, Jeff Glover here from Glover U, coming to you with step 6 today, which is handling objections. Always a fun topic for me. I'm just making a quick note to myself here, so stand by. All right. So step 6 of 7, handling objections. I've got some great thoughts that I've kind of been using over the years, and of course, things I want to share with you about this crucial part of the process. You know, I tell our agents all the time that listing appointments are won and lost on two things: how well you handle objections and how well you present and cover pricing. And so if you present and cover pricing well and you get their confidence up and they're feeling good about the value and the next step, then they'll probably give you a couple objections. And at that point, it's the make or break. That's where you'll determine or decide whether you're getting the listing or not. And so since this series, the 7 Steps to 100 Listings, is all about listings, we're focusing on handling seller objections today. I promise you there will be a series that we do on buyers and buyer mastery and handling buyer objections, and so you'll get that material later. Also, I can tell you that there's a video out there. It's either on gloveru.com or on our Facebook page at gloveru of me actually handling objections. So we didn't put them all out there, but we put a few out there. And as time goes on, I'll continue to post and make sure you guys get all the videos of how to handle objections in today's market. So first things first, I wrote down, what is your attitude towards objections? What comes to mind when you get an objection from a consumer? And the reason why I asked that question is because your attitude determines the way you behave when you're on a presentation. And so I want your attitude to be the same as mine when I get an objection, and that is they're giving me an objection because they want to work with me. All right? Now, I know that sounds like basic. Yeah, Jeff, okay, we understand you got to be positive. But seriously though, think of it like this. If somebody gives you an objection, that is a question that is in the mind of the consumer that remains unanswered. So all we have to do is have a good dialogue about answering their questions. So from now on, when you get an objection, I want your mindset to instantly shift to, okay, this person is considering working with me. This is a good thing. And therefore, it shows through in your attitude, in your smile, in your face, in your approach. How do a lot of agents handle objections? They get agitated, they might turn red, maybe they start sweating a little bit. What is your attitude towards handling objections? It better be, this is a good thing, they want to work with me, they have a question, let's answer it. The next thing I wrote down, the difference between objection, and you hear this sometimes, well, how do you handle this one, Jeff? How do you handle their job fell through and now they're not moving? Or they realize they owe too much in their house and they can't sell, they're stuck. Well, those are what is called conditions. And there are certain examples out there, those are 2 of them I just gave you, where you just can't overcome a condition, all right? Now, I will tell you, naturally agents lean more towards the condition side than the objection side. Most things can be overcome. For instance, well, no pun intended here, but talking about the condition of someone's house. Well, that can be overcome by price, right? So we know that most objections that they give you, or in this case, if you consider it a condition, still some conditions can be overcome because you're thinking that it's a condition and there's no way you can overcome it. So make sure you know the difference between an objection, which is a question in the mind of the consumer that remains unanswered, versus a condition, which is a statement of fact that we can do nothing about. For instance, a job transfer falling through, or they're upside down on their house. Next, I wrote down, you hear this a lot on appointments. I get it too, almost weekly when I go on appointments. We want to think it over, or we want to sleep on it, all right? Know that those are not objections. Those are a smokescreen for what's hiding the real objection. So when someone tells you they want to think it over, they want to sleep on it, that's not the objection. There is an objection hiding under there, which you have to force out of them essentially. But when they say to you they want to think it over or they want to sleep on it, that is a smokescreen for the actual objection. So when they say that to me, typically I'll say something to the effect of, do you feel I can sell your home? I understand you want to think about it. I can totally appreciate it. It's a big decision. Do you feel that I can sell your home? Yes, Jeff, we feel that you can sell our home. Great. Then what specifically is stopping you from putting me to work for you today? What is it specifically that's stopping you from putting me to work for you today? The whole thinking it over and sleeping on it goes out the window. Now what comes up? Well, we're not really thrilled with your price, Jeff. Or, well, we've got a few other agents coming out. Those are the objections, right? So when they say to you, they want to sleep it over, they want to think it over, they want to sleep on it, that is not an objection. Instead, you say, I can certainly appreciate you want to sleep on it. It is a big decision, and let me ask you, do you feel that I can sell your home? Well, yeah, we think so. We're pretty confident that you could probably sell our house. Great, then what is stopping you from putting me to work for you today? Well, that commission, or the contract length, or where's your office located, or the numerous objections that come up. That's when they'll come up. So next time you hear sleeping on it, thinking it over, know that it's a smokescreen for what is really concerning them. It is not actually the objection itself. You have to dig the objection out of there. Next, I wrote down, do not try to handle the objections during the pre-qual process or during your lead generation time. All right? A lot of times, you're on the phone with someone, you're prospecting, they give you an objection. My response is going to be, you know what, that's a great question. I'm glad you brought that up. That'll be one of the first things we talk about when I come out. All right, so when I'm on the phone, I'm not handling an objection. The reason is because you can quickly lose someone over the phone versus face-to-face. You're better off handling it face-to-face. Or some of you may remember the old Floyd Wickman line, I don't know, haven't seen your house yet. Let's get together, right? So whenever they give me an objection over the phone, I'm always trying to deflect it to the appointment. Hey, my commission, great question. Number one, I have to see your house yet. Number two, we have to pick a plan that's going to work best for us to get it sold. That'll be one of the first things we talk about when I come out tonight at 5 o'clock, okay? All right, so I'm not handling the objections over the phone. That is a recipe for disaster. Next, I wrote down, you need 2 to 3 objection handlers for every objection. All right, I see agents all the time. I give an objection, they give me a handler, and then that's it. There's no response after that. Okay, I need more. The reason why I need more is because if a consumer is giving you an objection, that means there's a good chance that their mind is made up about something. Let me ask you a question. When's the last time that your mind was made up about something and someone gave you one reason to change it and you changed your mind like that? Think about it. Your mind is set on something. Someone gave you one reason to change it and it worked. It changed your mind, that one reason, miraculously. When's the last time that happened? It probably hasn't. Why hasn't that happened? Well, that hasn't happened because as human beings, our brains need 2 to 3 reasons, or 2 to 3 small yeses. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I could see that. Okay, yeah, now yeah, I could see how that could happen. Our brain needs to do that in order for our mind to change. So I wrote down, you have to have 3 answers for every objection handler, all right? 3 answers for every objection handler. Now, I know probably you're saying, well, Jeff, where do we get all these answers from? We'll cover that in later material, or obviously if you work with us, you get all that stuff. I have the answers to all the objections. I'd love to cover that with you. Today we're talking about the meat and potatoes of how to handle them. We'll do that another time. But you need to have 3 answers written out, scripted, understood, rehearsed, role-played to every single objection that you encounter. How do you do that? I wrote down to learn the answers, do what I did. Take 1 objection a week, write it out several times a day, and commit it to memory. You know, you don't have to learn them all in 1 week. It might take you several months. I mean, gosh, it took me several years. So to learn the answers to the objections and to master the objections, even if you don't like my answers, you could literally write out an objection and think about a way to handle that, and you'll come up with your own answer, and it'll probably work just fine. Just remember, you need to have 3 answers to every objection. So to learn the answers, to master it, take 1 objection per week, write it out several times per day, and commit it to memory. All right, the next point is my favorite. I call it the 6 rules on handling objections. If you don't get anything from this 15-minute series or this 15-minute video, take this away, all right? 6 rules of handling objection. Remember, rule number 1, always agree. Wait a minute, we're agreeing, they're objecting, we're agreeing. How does that make sense? You'll see when I put it together in a second. Rule number 1 is always agree, and you'll see what that looks and sounds like in a moment. Rule number 2, always smile. I'm so excited you gave me an objection. This means you want to work with me. What is it? Right? You almost have to have that kind of an attitude. Always nod your head. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, absolutely. Smiling and nodding your head is a positive motion that when somebody sits across the table and they see that happening, it's natural for them to do the same, right? When is the last time someone was frowning at you or upset and you sat there with a big smile? It doesn't happen, all right? Smiles are contagious. Just like nodding your head. That's contagious and that's a positive motion. Chances are they're going to respond well when you're smiling and nodding your head. Next, rule number 4, never argue. All right, when you argue with the customer, it puts them on the defense. All right, when you argue, they completely shut down any openness they had to any idea that you want to share. All right, how do we argue? Well, here's how a rookie salesperson handles an objection. All right, they say, oh, you got to restate the objection, which is a rule, by the way. Restate the objection. All right, yeah, oh, you want me to cut my commission. Well, I can understand that, but. No more but or however. Get rid of the word but and however from your vocabulary. That is crucial. There's no room in the sales dictionary for the word but or however. And however is just another fancy way to say but. All right. So every time you say the word however, you are basically saying you didn't mean what you said before that. I can see where you're coming from. However, no. You just said you don't see where I'm coming from. So guess what happens? When you say however, people tune out what you say after the word however. Why? Because they're thinking about why would you disagree with me? They're thinking about why are you challenging me? So think about this next time in your everyday language. You do this with family and friends, by the way. How often do you use the word however? Because when you do, basically what you're doing is you're saying what you said before the word however you didn't actually mean. And oh, by the way, the person that you're talking to is probably not listening to what you have to say after the word however or the word but. You literally negated that because you disagreed with them. And when someone disagrees with you, your brain instantly goes to, why are you disagreeing with me? Well, maybe I am wrong. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I have to prove I'm right. So rule number 5 is get rid of, so we have rule number 1, always agree. Rule number 2, always smile. Rule number 3, always nod your head. Rule number 4, never argue. Rule number 5, get rid of the word but and however and replace it with the word and. Replace but and however with the word and. Again, you'll see what it sounds like in a second. And at first it's going to feel funny doing that, but I'm telling you, as time goes on, it's a very powerful shift in your dialogue and can get you better results. Finally, rule number 6 of handling objections, always restate the objection. And if possible, I want you to put this an asterisk by this, always restate the objection in a positive way. So you'll see how I do that in a second. So rule number 1, always agree. Rule number 2, always smile. Rule number 3, always nod your head. Rule number 4, never argue. Rule number 5, get rid of the word but and however and replace it with the word and. And rule number 6 is restate the objection in a positive manner. All right, we'll use the classic one. Well, Jeff, we had a few agents out and everyone's, basically said they'll do it for 5%. Is there a way that maybe you would reduce your fee? Well, I can watch how I follow the rules of handling objections. Well, I can certainly appreciate the question, and certainly I know you've had some great interviews, so you're meeting with some good agents. And what I really think I hear you saying is that you're looking to net the most out of the sale of this home. Is that right? Do you see what I did there? I restated their objection in a positive way. All right? I restated it in a way that puts me in the position of power and gives me control over that conversation. Well, Jeff, we have a few more interviews before we select an agent. Hey, I can certainly appreciate that. It's a big decision. You should be interviewing agents. And I'm curious, have I displayed the traits you're looking for in an agent to get your home sold? Why, yes, you have. All right. Restated the objection in a positive way. I'm good with it. I'm happy. They gave me an objection. Thank you. That means they want to work with me. I didn't use the word but or however. I used the word and I asked another question. Here's another rule, rule number 7. Let me write this down because I don't have it in my notes that I totally forgot. Rule number 7, always close after you handle the objection. Always close after you handle the objection. Here's why. When you handle an objection and they're shaking their head and they're feeling good and they're smiling and they're nodding and it's like, wow, I just handled that. That is the point where they have the greatest chance of committing to you or committing to doing something or committing to reducing their price or accepting this offer, setting an appointment or listing their home with you. When you handle an objection and they respond in a positive way, yeah, I guess I never thought about that. Okay, I'll give you a for instance. Well, we really were hoping that you would cut your commission, Jeff. Hey, I can certainly appreciate that. You met with other agents, and I know a lot of agents are hungry for business and willing to do what it takes. And by the way, I'm a hungry agent too. Do you believe that I can sell your home? Yeah, we certainly do. Great. So then I've displayed everything that we need to know, that you need to know to go through and get your home sold. We've talked about the price. Are you comfortable with the price? Yeah, we're pretty fair with the price. And we covered the difference between list price and sales price and the amount that I'm getting versus the board average, right? You're comfortable with that number. By the way, we're averaging 98% of the asking price, while the board realtor is about 95.5%. So you can see that I'm actually netting our sellers 2 or 3 points more than the average agent, right? Great. You ready to get started? I've handled their objection. They're smiling, they're nodding. I'm going right to the close. Every time I handle an objection, I'm closing after. Now, it doesn't have to be a big close. It can be a trial close, right? We talked about trial closes in the earlier series. It doesn't have to be closing for a signature, but always use the opportunity when you handle an objection to close afterwards. Next thing I wrote down is keep the toughest objections and answers that you receive wherever you're doing your prospecting, your lead generation, whether it's on a poster board. We used to have, back in the day, I just saw our inside sales manager. I walked down the hall. I said, hey, are we still doing that? And we do it a little differently today. But back in the day, I'm telling you for years, we have an inside sales manager now that runs our inside sales team. Back in the day, we used to have JGA poster boards. And so our agents would go through a 1-week boot camp. And I'd come in there with a poster board, not like a half-size poster board, and I'd say, okay, I'd set down the list of all the objections and all the handlers, and I'd hand them a poster board. This was like part of their graduation to get out of their boot camp. I said, okay, what I want you to do is take all these objections and all the answers to them, and I want you to put them on this poster board. And we're going to take that poster board and we're going to put it up in your cubicle or put it up at your desk or wherever you're going to do your prospecting. We called those the objection handler poster boards, and they had to produce that in order to get out of the class. So I would encourage you, put it on 3x5 cards, put it on a poster board, whatever, just get it in front of you, write them out. Obviously, you guys know I'm a big fan of writing things out. Next, I wrote down, learn to recognize that at times the prospect is bringing up an objection just to throw you off, sometimes just to create conversation. All right, so sometimes you can just continue on with the presentation without actually handling the objection. See, I think the mistake a lot of agents make is they get caught up in a small objection, and then you end up talking about it for a half hour. Right? Sometimes they just do that to create conversation or to throw you off. We know that somebody, if they're giving you objections, they want to work with you. Here's what happens if you don't get objections. All right? Have you ever been on an appointment where they just sit there kind of like this? And you might ask the question, so do you guys have any other questions? And they sit there like this and they say, no, I think you covered everything. And then hopefully you close and say, great, are you ready to get started? And they sit there like this and say, I think we need to think about it. All right, whenever they're giving you this posture and whenever they're kind of stone-faced and not really reacting to your response and definitely not giving you an objection, that's not a good thing, right? If you have to do something to break whatever tension is there, because if they're sitting there like this, or if they're not giving you any objections at all, I like to bring some up. You know, this is usually the time that somebody would ask me, what do we charge, or how long is our contract? Do you have any questions on any of that? I actually bring the objections up if they don't. Why? Because that's how I can create more conversation and get them to consider working with me again. Did you hear that? If they don't ask me those questions, they're probably not considering working with me. So if I bring them up, then it gives me more time to create dialogue and to get into some more question and answering, and hopefully they want to work with me by the time we're done. All right, let's see what else I have here. Couple things. All right, you have an objection that you want me to handle. All right, you can comment below. I'm going to handle the objections throughout the week. So that's how we're going to handle this. So you've got any objections that you're getting right now, put them in the comments. You know, if you end up watching this later and you're not watching it live, just throw them in there. I'll handle them throughout the week. And what I'll probably do is bring it on to our next video, which is next Monday at noon Eastern time, where we wrap up the 7-step series. Now, if you're joining us late, we're on step 6 of 7. 7 steps to 100 listings. This is the exact same system that I followed and still follow to this day and train all of our associates on. So today was step 6, handling objections. Next week is step 7, which is closing and negotiating, the final step in the process. That happens at noon Eastern. If you have an objection this week, comment it, put it in the video. We'll handle it. And by the way, also I should let you know our early bird pricing has been extended for the Live Unreal Summit. So if you want to check that out, go to liveunrealsummit.com. That's L-I-V-E, the word unreal, U-N-R-E-A-L, summit.com. Liveunrealsummit.com. It's our 2-day event where for the first time I'm going through our entire sales system, the JGA sales system. So early bird pricing has been extended to October 15th, I believe. Check it out at liveunrealsummit.com. Other than that, we'll see you next week.